What's cracking, guys? Omar Yusuf here with my man, Jake Noel. Jake, what's going on, bro?
What's going on, bro? How are you?
We are talking about something really cool.
Yep.
Everyone has been asking me. They noticed the gains. Everything's been feeling good.
Yep.
I'm pretty much dealing with all that SI stuff, and it's going great thanks to you. You are the Rehab wizard, let's say. So we want to talk today about SI dysfunction. Why does it get locked up, and what does this do?
Yeah, so the SI are the two joints that live at where your lumbar spine comes into the hips. So where your low back and your hips meet.
Yeah.
And the SI are two joints on either side of the lumbar spine. And when those areas get bound, it's thanks to the hips twisting or elevating. And we need to go in with the peanut that we're going to show you how to make here in a second and free up all those tissues, get all of the scar tissue, adhesions, neuromuscular activity that's funny to release so that those hips can settle back down, relax, and move normally. Yep.
Yeah, and so you would say that SI dysfunction for powerlifters, any real general strength athlete like weightlifters is a pretty common issue to deal with, right?
Yeah, SI dysfunction is something that it's so common. If you're having back pain, I would just say assume it's SI dysfunction because you'll be right about 85–90% of the time. And almost everybody deals with it at some point, so almost everybody can benefit from understanding a little bit about how to free up the SI. If you're not experiencing back pain, good on you. Start now so that you don't get hurt in the future. You know. Yep.
Yeah, and I guess what we should say, we always talk about like rehab, but we could use that phrase perhaps prehab.
That's right.
For people that don't have these issues, but maybe they get a little ache or pain, or they just want to be preventative.
Yeah.
This is a good idea.
Yeah, and enhance performance. So if I'm fighting my body instead of the barbell, my performance is going to decrease. So the more I can get my body working comfortably, naturally, and at full force, the better I'm going to do in the gym. So certainly you don't have to wait until you're injured to start this. And if you want to give this a shot, if you feel areas of tenderness and tightness, chances are you're cruising for an injury. So it's a great idea to just jump on it ahead of time. And so we are going to be doing some mobilization for Omar's SI joints. So when we're seeing an SI upshift or a roll, one way that we really like to improve that is via the peanut. And how to make that we just saw. What we're going to be using this for is to get on either side of Omar's low back. So right here is where the SI lives. We have his sacrum, which is kind of that hard flat bone right above his butt crack. And then we have the SI joints that live on either side. So we're going to go through all these erectors using this little instrument. And we're going to be rolling through here looking for tender areas. And then we're going to have him do some movements with his legs as he gets his femurs moving around a little bit. That opens the joints up and allows us to hit some of those spots that can be a little tough to find if we stay static. So I'm going to run us through 3 or 4 different drills for how to move our legs while we apply pressure to the SI via this instrument. So down we go to the floor and set that underneath. The first step is really just making sure that we find an area that is tender. So sometimes the best way to do that can be simply staying in the position that he's in and kind of rolling his hips around in a circle, just very slowly. And all you're using this for is to find where there's some tender spots. Do you find any? Yep. So wait until you found one that you think is really it. Hang on there for a second, and we're going to start doing some marching. So what we're going to start with is one leg at a time. Bring this up slow. Bring this hand over the top. Other hand as well. Not the other leg though, just that. Yep. And then wrap around. And you're just using this, and I want you to spin that real slow in a circle and just looking for areas that are tender. When we find it, we're kind of grinding through. We don't want to excite the tissues, we want to relieve the tissues. So our goal is not to go in and really beat the shit out of them. Our goal is to go in, find an area that's painful, and slowly, gently dig in and work out the tender spot. And then once we've found that, then we're going to bring both legs back down, just here, and we're going to bring both legs up at the same time, and then both legs down at the same time. Both legs up at the same time, both legs down at the same time. And you're free as always when you're up in that up position to wrap your hands around and pull some downward pressure on it, and see if anything opens up for you. Because as these tissues get damaged, they might be damaged in little bits of different spots depending on the individual. Next up, we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to do it with his thigh squeezing in. So we're going to use a yoga block, and we're going to put it in between Omar's knees, just like this, and have him squeeze in. And what we're doing is we're squeezing in with the thighs so that the musculature back here, as we squeeze in, it opens up that joint and stretches the tissues of the low back, which is a good deal. And then I want you to do the exact same movement that you were just doing. So squeeze in and then up and down, up and down, nice and slow. Again, we don't want to excite the tissues, we want to relieve the tissues. It will hurt, yes, and it might hurt even pretty damn bad if you find a spot that needs it. but we're not trying to go in and beat this thing into submission. We're trying to heal. That's our objective, yep. And you're feeling some good spots there as you do that. When you find a spot that you really like, stay on it for just a second. There's no reason to, you know, yeah, exactly, little side shifters like that. Yeah, we don't have to have a hardcore protocol that we're following. We're just trying to find what will get us the best release. Yep. And then our next bit, once we've done the internal squeezing in with the thighs, we're going to spread them apart. From this position, leave your feet on the floor for a second, and then push out, and then come about halfway up, and then push out, and then come all the way up and keep pushing out. And then you can, up in the top position, close, open, close, and you can kind of work that closing and opening. You see, right, there we go. Yep. And just looking for it. Now you're seeing a spot where you're like, your body wants to bail, right? Where it's like, ah, clunk, and your legs want to fall. That's generally about the range. So if you feel like a very weak point when you're in that position, try to live about in that range, because that's probably where you're going to find the most dysfunction, until you can go through the full range of motion without it feeling like it weakens dramatically at any point. So bring both knees up. Yep, put your hands around just like that. Yep, exactly like that. And then I want you to go around the clock, just like that, yep. This particular mechanic of just kind of pulling down on your legs, putting pressure on the SI against that peanut tool, and making circles kind of opens up the SI. It creates some dynamic movement in there. And then because of that, the self-myofascial release that you're trying to achieve is hitting lots and lots of different spots, lots of different angles, and it definitely allows for a much fuller release of the SI. And this often brings us a ton of relief. So kind of the goal is take the peanut, bring it to the SI, make sure that both SI are getting good pressure and you're finding areas that are tender. We're externally rotating the legs with the band. We're internally rotating by squeezing in on the yoga block, and then we're doing some dynamic movement with the circles. All of that together, looking for the spots that hurt the most, and when we find them, staying on those spots as long as we need to get the pain to release. I love following this up with a trunk rotation, so let's have you pop the peanut out from under you. Yep, and then right after we get that freed up, I like straightening it out, bringing it over, bringing that leg, and just getting a trunk rotation. Lots of times you'll get little pops and cracks in your back. It's not necessarily your goal to get a bunch of pops in your back, but it's common that you will, and sometimes they feel really terrific. And so just like this, we kind of stretch open, and then switch and do the other side. And that is a way of giving yourself effectively a low back chiropractic treatment without needing a great thrust, which can be kind of risky.
Whoa, guys, that is all the time we have. Jake, thank you so much for being on.
Yeah.
You finally, I told you to set it up. People can now follow you
on
Instagram.
That's right. Yeah. Gains Not Pains, at Gains Not Pains is the handle. Gains with a Z, pains with an S, underscores in between the words. That's where you can find me on Instagram, and then you can go to the website, gainsnotpains.com.
Absolutely. I would highly recommend, if you guys are dealing with some issues, to check Jake out. We have a whole series coming up. This is the first part, essentially, talking about the SI dysfunction, what you guys can do to either be preventative or rehab if you're dealing with these issues. If you like the video, make sure to like the damn video.
Like the video.
And post below what you want to see next from Jake, because he's actually going to come up in a few weeks.
That's right.
So we're going to just keep this idea very same, trying to help you guys out, trying to give you some tools, some ideas on how to release some of these issues you have.
Yep.
Yeah, so I guess with that being said, I'll be seeing all you guys, my rascals, in that next video. Peace.